Oh, my word.
That's amazing.
Oh. Well, this is a most wonderful Art Deco brooch. Tell me who it was made for.
Well, I think it's my mother's. I think it was a 21st birthday present for her in 1938.
Oh, that's interesting. I've got a funny feeling it was made a little earlier than that, you know. There's various aspects of the design that point to it being just a tiny bit earlier than that, maybe 10 or 15 years. It seems to me a positive distillation of the Art Deco period, doesn't it? What parts of it did you think looked Art Deco particularly?
Well, the oblong and the big diamond in the centre.
Right. And funny enough, it's the sun rays that appear left and right that sort of interested me as a sort of Art Deco focus. And these strange conventionalised bunches of grapes. This is a sort of, really a landscape, isn't it, in diamonds. And it's an interesting one too because it's very spirited. It's a really great Art Deco jewel, but strangely it's English. And actually we associate the very best Art Deco jewels with France. And so it's interesting for that too. I mean, I must say I do love it. My goodness, it's very enviable because it's exactly the right scale for everybody today. I think there's lots of people who wouldn't mind wearing that on a black suit, and because it's so colourless too, it's exactly what people want. So all of those things do add up to, you know, something really very desirable indeed, and with desirability comes value, doesn't it?
Yes.
Well, have you had any thoughts about it being what its value is? Obviously it's
I know its probate value of 1997, and that's all. It was 1,200 then.
Yes. Well, it does seem to me very low, to be frank. I think that this is a little work of art. It's the finest craftsmanship. It's also very, very beautiful diamonds. So I'm going to go a bit mad, I'm afraid. Are you ready?
Yes.
I'm going to tell you that it's worth £8,500.
Oh, my word.
It's lovely. Crazy about it.
Yes, yes.
Well, as far as I know, it belonged to my great-grandmother, but I don't know anything more about it. She came from Yorkshire, and I suppose ladies of her status would have worn tiaras quite often and brooches like that.
A typical form for a mid-19th century piece of English diamond work, and technically it's interesting because on the back it's of gold, and yet on the front it's set into silver, and it was to be worn in candlelight, and so there wasn't much concern about the front tarnishing, which it does a tiny bit. Have you worn it? Does it got lots of memories for you? I bet it has.
Possibly at army dances, but I don't go to those sort of things nowadays.
Not as a brooch or in your hair?
Oh, no, as a brooch.
It's a wonderful, spectacular display of natural beauty, isn't it? And very flattering. Wonderful, wonderful thing. It's High Victorian. Yeah. It's really couldn't be a more elegant form, and perhaps put it down on your insurance policy for £8,000, something like that. More than you thought?
Shall I tell you how much it's on my insurance for?
Do, go on.
400.
400. Well, it's only 20 times the amount.
This is true.
Talk about the right piece in the right box. I mean, doesn't it look lovely against that blue velvet? It's beautiful.
It does. My mother remembers her great aunt wearing it, and she had a very ample bosom and used to often wear black velvet gowns.
It shimmered spectacularly.
Yes.
Well, the big feature about this, apart from the fact that it's a lovely flower spray brooch, is that the centre flower cluster is mounted on this coiled spring. It literally scintillates when you wear it.
Yes.
So it sets off this fantastic shimmer. One of the features about all Victorian jewellery is how immensely practical they were. And if you take out the blocking...
I never realised that was there.
Well, it's a nice little touch that the Victorians were excellent at doing. What it meant was that you could remove the centre at the back, and you could sometimes convert it to be worn, in this case, as a spray for the back of the hair. So it's just an extra little feature, and they were supremely practical people. You could do all sorts of different things. But as I say, it's a late Victorian piece. It's mounted up in silver and gold, lots of diamonds set all over it. Total carat weight, probably about 7 carats. Now, I think if it was offered in auction, because it's got all the fittings and the case, it would probably achieve in the region of, say, £2,500 to £3,000. Now, bear in mind, that's auction, and I think if you expected to buy it in a retail shop with the markup on top of it, you'd probably be looking at perhaps around about £6,000 for it.
They were my mother-in-law's, and they were in the bank. And it wasn't until after her death, 12 years ago, that we discovered this jewellery in the bank. So,
Emerald and diamond brooch, that very geometric, rectangular look, would date that to Art Deco. This is absolutely right for around about 1930.
Yes.
And during that time, you know, firms like Cartier and their contemporaries were making very, very linear looking jewellery. But the emerald in the middle of this piece is a lovely, dark, blue-green colour, and it's just the kind of colour that the market most looks for. The Art Deco brooch is wearable, top quality, platinum mounted. At auction, it would probably go up to round about £2,500 to £3,000. The light here shows us how very white these diamonds are, because this is a diamond parure of jewellery. Parure, a set,
yes.
Brooch and matching drops for the ears. The period of design for something like this is very much late 1940s, start of the 1950s,
yes.
when London jewellers used to make jewellery like this, very white, using brilliant cuts, which are the round diamonds, and in this case, baguette cut diamonds. And you know the way it is, ladies would go to cocktail parties where they would wear their sets of jewellery. Sometimes with these drops for the ears you could remove the diamonds, and I see you can, can't you?
Yes, you can.
You could wear them as simple cluster clips on the lobe during the daytime, and at night time you would put your baguette diamond
yes.
drops on. Nighttime, daytime earrings.
Yes.
Very, very practical indeed. You've got the additional facility on the brooch that you can remove it from the frame like that. You pull back these clip fittings. I'll show you there. You just pull that like that. That dismantles, and then you can wear one on one side of your lapel and one on the other.
Weren't they very fashionable in the 50s to wear clips?
Very much so, and in the 30s too.
Were they? Yes.
And you could imagine how striking that would look. Yes. Right, well, let's talk about values. The diamond clip brooch, each side here has got about 6 carats of diamonds. That counts to about 12 carats of diamonds. So at basic break-up price for this diamond brooch, we would be looking at maybe £4,000 or £5,000. The earrings to go with it, the fact it's a set adds a little boost to it as
yes.
well. So I think those earrings are something around the £3,000 to £3,500 region. Terrific. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you too.
Thank you.
Well, they were given to my great-grandfather, who was chef to Edward VII and Queen Victoria at the end of her reign, by the crowned heads of Europe, and some of these are the Russian pieces.
Amazing. Now, do you think that they were objects given almost as a sort of thank you to this?
That's right. Yes.
And is this all the things that you have? Are there any more?
No, I have some other pieces which come from Manuel of Portugal, Kaiser Bill.
All the visitors to Sandringham, all the visitors
yes,
to Buckingham
right.
Palace,
That's
all the
right.
cousins of the British royal family that descended from Queen Victoria.
That's right,
In a
yes.
sense, she's sort of fountainhead of this sort of
Yes, she
society,
was.
European royal society.
That's
Let's
right.
just have a look at those. These are Russian ones, and a pair of gold cufflinks set with rubies and diamonds, alternating rubies and diamonds, in a sort of nugget effect.
Nugget, that's what I've always been told, yes, gold nuggets.
And there's a most marvellous word in Russia used to describe this, which is called samorodok, which means a nugget. And it's a very, very Russian technique, much favoured by Faberg. And in fact, these are not by Faberg, and the lid satin rather conveniently tells us that they're made by somebody called Ivanov, working in St. Petersburg. And it's certain that they are a gift from the member of the Imperial family, because the Imperial family's cipher appears above.
Yes.
And do you know exactly who gave those?
I think it was Tsar Nicholas.
He certainly came to London, and he certainly went to Sandringham, and there were many opportunities in which he could have offered those. Tell me about what you know about him as a chef. Why was he so favoured, do you think?
Well, he was a Frenchman to start with, and I understand he'd been chef to people like the Rothschilds and had been to Saltram in Devon. And Edward VII heard of him and wanted him to be his chef, and I think he may have poached him.
What did he look like? Do we know what he looked like?
Yes, I have a picture here.
Oh, isn't it marvellous? And with his
of his family, with mother, with his wife, and the 2 daughters, my grandmother and my aunt.
Oh, that's very touching, isn't it? My goodness.
Yes,
He looks quite sort of...
avuncular.
Well, doesn't he? He's a brilliant chap, I must say.
Yes.
And so these were his things. Well, let's just run through them a little bit further. Have you thought about these ones here?
Well, I have been told that they were cufflinks, but they have little rings on, as you can see just there. And I really don't know. I imagine because they were given to my great-grandfather, they must have been cufflinks, I feel, and because he only had daughters, possibly the daughters had them made into brooches or pendants.
I think what has happened, and rather sadly, is that when these adaptations have been made to turn them into brooches, that the marks have been lost. But these are very characteristic of Fabergé's work. We call this guilloché enamel, and it's an engine-turned gold mount that's flooded with translucent pink enamel, and then the imperial eagle is applied as a gold cipher over and above that. In every way, they're positively reek of Fabergé. But in stamp collecting terms, I can't be absolutely certain. But I can be certain about this one. And does the family history say that that was an imperial gift?
They do. They do say, the family told me that that was definitely given by Tsar Nicholas.
Well, I don't think there's any doubt about that at all. And there's absolutely no doubt at all that this is a full-blown Fabergé brooch. It is.
Oh, wonderful.
It's signed.
Because I wondered, and I sort of half hoped it would be, and that's marvellous.
Well, it's a most distinguished thing. Again, the use of the guilloché enamel, yellow enamel in this case, and 2 colours of gold, little laurel wreaths, and tied with a diamond bow, emblematic of peace, and the Romanov crown set with diamonds and circled with pearls. And we know it's Fabergé because on the back here, there's the workmaster's initials for August Holming, who was not necessarily a specialist jeweller, but a worker in all manner of enamel work. So goodness me, and there's more at home. There's more souvenirs.
Yes, well, a few more. Yes, a few more.
Now, as for value, the cufflinks are impressive. They're very Russian technique, in the manner of Fabergé, but a rose by any other name smells as sweet, but it certainly isn't as valuable.
No.
And I think with an imperial provenance, nonetheless, they are very desirable, very wearable. And a very precise provenance, so I suppose something like £7,000 or £8,000 for the cufflinks.
Really? My goodness gracious me.
Nothing to do with intrinsic value, nothing at all. These, I believe them to be Fabergé from a technical basis, really, and as souvenirs of Nicholas II, which is absolutely certain. I think we can go a bit mad again. £8,000 to £10,000 for those. You feeling calm? It's very, very good, isn't it? Making me nervous.
These are things that I don't really want to sell, you see.
No.
I want to keep, and yes, because they're family pieces.
Well, I think in a way they should be kept together as a collection.
Should they? That's what I wanted to ask you.
Context everything here and provenance, actually. And what about this one? Any ideas for that one?
Well, if these are that price, that must be £10,000.
Well, it is £10,000, and it's more than £10,000.
Is it?
Yep. It's £15,000.
My dear chap, God.
It's wonderful.
That's amazing. I never realised it would be as much as that, I must confess.
No.
My wife had it for, I don't know, 5-6 years. It's probably come down through the family. She was quite happily wearing it as a bit of costume jewellery.
Bit of costume jewellery?
Yeah.
And what did she wear it on?
Denim jackets.
Denim jacket.
Anything that she thought, nice sparkly thing. And then we took it to a jeweller's in Chancery Lane to get the clasp sort of repaired a little bit. And he turned around and said, "You do realise it's the real thing?"
The real thing.
And so she's not worn it since, more's the pity.
Diamonds and denim.
Yes, exactly.
She really thought a bit about the design.
I did notice that the 2 ends unscrewed, but that was...
Well, they unscrew because there was probably not only this brooch, but a cascade of them running the front of a lady's fiercely corseted dress in about 1900. So you think your wife had problems. Think of Princess Yusupova walking around with this. Not bad, is it?
No, not bad at all.
Not bad. Now, I say Princess Yusupova because I can tell that this is a Russian brooch by the safety clasp. There's a strange little sort of twist like a question mark at the end, which is a brilliant device because it stops the owner pricking her finger, or more accurately, her lady's maid pricking her finger, because you've never put this sort of thing on yourself in pre-revolutionary Russia. What we call a stomacher because it runs along the front of the stomach of such a lady I can't think how it could have been more beautiful. Why, what's the look? And just underneath here there's a break in the design, which I think is where the second and third and I don't know how many more brooches went down to meet it. A tiny little groove here. And also observe the beauty of this gallery here, the pierced gallery, and the fact that the back of the brooch is made of gold, and yet the front is of platinum to give the whiteness of the effect. I think it's probably quite a late brooch. It's 20th century. The Russians, this curiously sort of feudal life they were living there, and in the early 20th century, things couldn't be more sumptuous and more bejewelled and more exotic, really. So this is a fantastic context, really, isn't it? I'm just going to look a little bit for hallmarks. Russian hallmarks almost always appear on the clasp of the jewel and along the pin, which is strange, and yet there are more here. And it's jolly good that I did check that, actually, because there are the initials of the maker there, Theodore Laurier, who is a very well-known Art Nouveau jeweller, making things in the manner of Lalique, serpents and butterflies and that sort of thing. So this is a slightly conventional one for him, but a very beautiful one. Now, what did the jewellers have to say about it? They must have admired it very much, I think, didn't they?
Well, they did, yes. They said it was a lovely piece, and
yeah.
He even turned around and said, I'll give you 5,000 scrap for it. I said, no.
5,000 scrap?
I said, no,
wow.
I don't think so.
No, well, I think scrapping it's not the right word.
Exactly.
I think we've gone beyond scrapping.
No, it's too beautiful for someone to break down.
Fabulous context. Well, you know, if he's going to offer you £5,000 scrap for it, double it up for insurance. £10,000 for insurance, yeah.
Dear me.
It's actually made in England in 1840. This derives from a design conceived by Prince Albert. He asked for 12 bridesmaids' brooches to be made out of these materials for the Queen to hand out immediately after the wedding ceremony. And it's absolutely loaded with amatory significance. This is a hand on which a lovebird has alighted. It's a lovebird made of turquoise. And in the language of the lapidary, the turquoise stands for true love. It's an echo of the colour of the forget-me-not flower, and it means forget-me-not too. But also you can see lurking here is a tiny little ruby eye for the lovebird. And again, in the language of the lapidary, this stands for passion. So we've got passionate true love. And also we want that forever. Dream on, as they say. But it's true in that the fingernails of the hand are actually diamonds, and diamonds are forever. So this is forever, passionate, true love in a tiny jewel like this. What does it mean to you?
Well, I just love it.
You wear it?
And I do wear it, yes.
Had you got a clue about its meaning, its hidden meaning?
Well, no, I hadn't really.
No, well, in a way, that's good fun, because I think the point about jewellery is that it does act on us kind of subliminally. There's something very deep-seated in us, this understanding, and we don't have to think about it very carefully and hard. But I must say it's hugely animated. I mean, it really is very sculptural, and that's quite rare in jewellery. Usually it's very sort of two-dimensional, and it is the liveliest composition I've seen of this type of jewellery. Intrinsic value is nothing, really, absolutely nothing. I mean, really no more than sort of 80 to 100 pounds in the value of the stones, but in the value of the composition, 800 pounds.
Goodness, I'll still wear it.
Good, that's what it's for. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, an incredible collection of jewellery. And when did you start collecting all of these?
Oh, about 35 years ago.
35. And how many have you got altogether?
700.
700.
Yeah.
And they're all brooches?
700 brooches.
My
I've got bracelets.
And where do you, I mean, do you wear any of them?
Oh, yes, some of them.
Which do you like to wear?
I like that one there.
That one, right.
And that's the favourite of mine there.
Yeah, brilliant.
Where's the other one?
And what about these? What are those? Tell us about those.
Those are Mother's Day presents off my children.
Oh, are they? From Mother?
Yes,
they're big, sort of scratchy, aren't they? Do you know what they are?
Yes,
What are they?
Rabbit's claws.
No, they're grouse's claws, and they're to do with the shoot. The feet of the grouse that have been shot were then taken to the jeweller and mounted up.
So it's real?
Oh, definitely it's real. Very scratchy, aren't they? And, ooh,
Not
yes.
as scratchy as these.
No, those are quite scratchy too, aren't they? Boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
And do you wear those all the time? It's a bit like it's like armour, isn't it?
Yeah,
You don't-
I wear them all the time.
And they're a bit sort of Chinese in a way, aren't they? They look
Quite
like those
heavy.
sort of fingernail guards of Chinese
Yeah.
emperors and things. Do they make you feel like an
More
empress or
posher.
not?
No.
They don't.
No, I just feel different.
What's the most different one here? Come on. Tell me about that one. Where did you
I
find
got
that?
that off the internet. I go through the auction rooms.
Did you?
And I put a bid in for about £2 and I won it.
Isn't it wonderful?
So that was a good buy.
And I like it because it's a glass of champagne with bubbles coming out of it, which is, you know, part of being different again, isn't it? The good party jewel. But it also makes a reference to jewellery that was going on at the time. This is a jewel that looks to me as if it might have been made in the 30s or 40s. And it's simulating baguette diamonds and brilliant diamonds. And the original could have been made by, well, indeed, it would have been by Cartier or Boucheron or something like that. And had it been set with diamonds and been as imaginative as that, instead of being £2, it might have been £20,000.
Oh my God! I'll have to find a real one. Then,
Wouldn't that
won't
be good? That'd be very good. Well, I think you will in the end, because you're so
eventually.
determined, aren't
Well,
you?
I've got so many, and that one, my daughter bought me that
Yeah.
one, and
Yeah.
I really like that one because, you know, I think the ones the kids buy you are
More touching, aren't they?
And more priceless,
yeah, no, it's
aren't they,
brilliant,
you
isn't it?
see?
It's brilliant colours. It's like a sort of pomegranate, isn't it? Fab.
I nearly wore all 700 on this.
All
thing.
700? You would have been
Really.
clunking
I tried
away
getting
like
them on,
mad, wouldn't
yes.
you?
Do you remember Bransbury Williams,
No.
the Shakespearean actor?
Oh, right,
Yes, well, his sister left it.
Oh, right.
That's
Well,
interesting.
it is fascinating. But I'm more fascinated by this because, first of all, you very seldom see an owl, and people just love owls. Secondly, it is a really beautiful Victorian diamond owl, really sparkly, got little cat's eye eyes.
What are those stones in its eyes?
They're cat's eyes.
Oh.
So, which is absolutely perfect. But it's beautifully made. The back is gorgeous, it's all lovely. But the thing is, it's an owl with humour as well. Whoever designed this has really given it the tilt of the body has given it a certain je ne sais quoi, which they usually don't have. Plus, it's a wonderful subject, and well, I love it. Do you have it insured by any chance? Probably not.
Oh, yeah, for 1,000, I think.
1,000? Well, I would think that this really should be insured for something like 6,000.
I'll definitely take you out to dinner.
Now, when you were given this, did you think it was a brooch?
Yes, I did. I only ever saw my grandmother wear it as a brooch, so I didn't think it would be anything else. And of course, it's got the pin across the back.
Yeah. Well, also at the back, there's a little clue to the fact that it was to be worn in another way.
Right.
And have you ever unscrewed this or not?
Oh, no.
And there it falls away. And that's the key to another function to this very, very pretty jewel. It looks almost freer without it, doesn't it?
Yes.
And in the fitted box in which this was originally sold,
Yes.
there would be a long tortoiseshell comb.
Yes.
And it could be screwed into the back there, and in the same box too would be some enormously long white feathers called egrets feathers, aigrettes.
Yes.
So you'd be the belle of the ball. Before you were married, you'd be wearing it in your hair like this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it would have huge white feathers jutting out of the top, and you'd be the belle of the ball wearing your aigrette. The word aigrette is a corruption of the word egret, because the feathers came from the egret, the white egret.
Yes.
Very spiky, very sort of shaving, brushy looking feathers.
Yes.
And very, very elegant. This was what a girl would wear before she was married in her hair, before she was entitled to wear a tiara. Only married women can wear tiaras in their hair.
Right.
And this would be part of etiquette in, what date do you think? Come on.
I honestly have no idea.
Have a
It
go.
was my grandmother's, and I believe that she inherited it, but other than that, I wouldn't have an idea.
No, well, we're pushing it a little bit further back. We're pushing it back to the 1890s, probably 1870s to 1890s.
Wow.
And it's hugely versatile. I mean, it has lost its feathers. They perished
Yes.
long, long ago. In fact, most of the egrets perished. They were a threatened species because they were hunted to nearly extinction to get these
Get the
wonderful,
feathers.
wonderful feathers. That's gone. The velvet case is gone, in which this would fit snugly.
Yes.
The tortoiseshell comb is gone.
Yeah.
Well, it's a positive blaze of diamonds, isn't it? I mean, it's wonderful, wonderful
It's a
thing.
bit sparkly.
You can see along the bottom here what we call a gallery.
Yes.
Which just raises the diamond work up when it's worn as a brooch away from the material to let the light come through. Pierced by hand, drawn out with a little diamond work, and then filed away by an apprentice. Then the silver settings are let into this, and tubes of silver, and each diamond set into it, pushed round, rubbed round, and then cut down. They call them cut down settings. So it's a hugely sentimental one for you, really, isn't it?
Oh, yes, yes. It's something that'll be passed on to my daughter and hopefully on to hers.
Well, that's wonderful. But I think we've got to just try and make a stab at value. I think let's put it down at £3,000 for insurance.
Goodness me. That'll give my husband a shock.
Well, it's the right sort of shock, isn't it? And all you've got to do is look after it, and all you've got to do is wear it for him, really.
Yes.
Look very posh indeed. Lucky chap.
My grandfather bought them for my grandmother over the years. And I think he must have bought them in London.
It's very tricky with jade. Issues with jade you have to bear in mind are colour, uniformity of colour through the stone, shape of the stone, size of course, patina. If you get a piece of jade that's very scratched and you get one that's very smooth and perfect, it's considerably more valuable for being a perfect stone than one that might have a few abrasions on it. But, you know, when we look at these two, that's a piece of jade.
It's fabulous, isn't it?
Yeah. This one here, have you noticed it's got a slightly wedge shape? It's almost as if it's being polished slightly off, and that does affect the interest a little.
Yeah.
Then you've got this splendid deco jade brooch, where I think they must have taken a couple of pieces of Chinese jade that have been carved, set them in little settings of diamonds, this flash, it's almost like a geometric bow, and then you've got these calibre black little hard stones in between, and this colour combination, the black, the white, the green, was very deco.
Yeah.
Now, let me just have a look at these jade pieces, because these are a fantastic colour, aren't they? These are wonderful. Now one small anxiety I've got, and I'm sure you have noticed it, it's got a crack running all the way through it.
In fact, the mount's been made to hold it because it's got more claws on that side.
And they're very thin slices, aren't they?
Yeah.
These are the sort of things that would have been done in China, and you know, you could wear them as clips for the ears or something, but these have been made into a brooch. Moving on to the question of values, it's not easy. If that wasn't damaged, it would be enormously commercial, but the damage does affect the price.
Yes, obviously.
I think that in that condition, with the crack across it, my instinct is that this is probably worth something around £4,000.
Yes.
This one here, with the wedge, you know, I love the polish. It's on a 1925 bar with the diamonds on the shoulders. That one there, I think it has to be worth the same sort of money. I'm absolutely thrilled. Many thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shall I tell you what I think it is? I think it's a snowflake.
Oh, right,
I think it's a snowflake brooch pendant. And the beauty of it is to have this contrast of all the different rainbow colours of gems. Look at the diamonds, they form this nice flash in between each of the gems themselves, but all the gems are different mixtures of semi-precious and precious gems in a snowflake cluster surround. Now, usually when they enclose the back of a gold brooch of this sort of period, you can see right the way through to the gems themselves. This is fully closed in at the back, which actually is a little confusing, because I think, looking at the stones at the front, that this is late Victorian. Usually when they enclose the whole back of the mount, that is usually Georgian, but I don't think this is a Georgian brooch at all. I think this was made in about 1895. So it's a full range of colourful late Victorian gems in a frame of diamonds, and the middle stone is a peridot. But it is individually numbered on the back there, and that's good because it shows it's a quality piece made by a quality manufacturer. I think if it was being offered in a retail shop, it would probably sell today for £6,000 to £6,500. That's my feeling about it.
My brother bought it from my mum from a jumble sale when he was young for 2p.
A 2p?
Yeah, 2 old D.
So tuppence?
Yeah.
With the old money?
My mum said she wanted something nice, so brother bought that.
Well, clearly a flower brooch, Austrian. These flashy little white stones, they're diamonds.
Fair enough.
And turning it over, the back of the frame, white gold, rather beautifully set like a claw on each of these petals. Petals made out of frosted rock crystal. What the mauve stone is? That's purple amethyst quartz. So all real gems, white gold, tiny diamonds in a flash, Austrian, circa 1960, 1965.
Go on.
Value, if you were selling this in an auction today, £500?
No way.
Every way possible. Very, very pretty little brooch.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed.
Now tell me exactly why you brought this brooch to the Antiques Roadshow.
Well, I was told it was valuable, but I wasn't just sure, and I came to get the truth.
The truth?
The
wow.
truth.
Well, the truth, as you know, has to be used with great economy in life, and I'm going to tell it to you just as it is. What were you told about the stones in this brooch?
Well, I was told it was a brown diamond.
Mm-hmm. Well, they were absolutely right. It's a brown diamond, and white diamonds at either end. And in a way, it's rather remarkable for that. We don't see coloured diamonds very often in life. To be perfectly honest, we don't see rather large diamonds in life very often, do we? Tell me, whose was it?
It was an aunt of mine, and she was the same name as myself, so I eared it.
Well, that's wonderful, isn't it? I'm just lucky you did have the same name, actually. We might have bypassed you. And it's not something one would want to bypass in life, because it's a very, very glamorous object indeed. I think it's worth saying about diamonds is that the white diamonds is what people really want. Blue white diamonds even better. Then, when they look inside, they want to see it absolutely flawless in the inner depths of the stone, and they'll use a diamond glass to determine that, using quite a high magnification to look into the inner recesses of the stone. And then, of course, they look for sheer size in diamonds, and this is a very respectable size. It's probably about 2 carats, something of that sort. And it's a curiosity. Have you ever seen a brown diamond before?
No, and my aunt wore it, and she said it wasn't a diamond.
Well,
She said, that's not a diamond.
Well, I'm absolutely confident that it is, and it's a very exciting thing for me to see, actually. It is, of course, the hardest material known to man. It scratches every other material in the planet, and there's a guide to hardness called Mohs Guide of Hardness, where every stone is used to scratch another stone. The diamond is at the top of that, it's resplendent at the top. Whatever you do to it, you cannot scratch it. And then, second on Mohs scale is the sapphire. And the diamond is 7 times harder than the second layer down. But what we can say is that this is a remarkable thing to find today. And to tell you also that the cutting of the diamond is a 19th century, late 19th, perhaps early 20th century cut, and it's been put into a brooch rather later on. So it lived in another jewel before, as indeed its little partners at the end did. And it's a shawl pin for a very elegant lady in about 1900. So a remarkable object in every sense of the word. So we've got to get down to the nitty-gritty hardness of diamonds and get down to hard facts about finance. Go home, ring up the insurance company and say you want to cover it for £2,500.
Right. That's
Surprise?
Super. That's super.
Good.
I went to a church antiques fair and I saw it in the cabinet, and I think it must have been my husband's birthday.
Goodness.
And so I thought, oh, I'll buy that.
That'll do nicely. Now, his name isn't Nelson, is it?
No.
But we got a good idea who it is, haven't we? Did you know what it was when you bought it?
Well, I just thought it was a tie-pin.
Just that?
Yes.
And, well, it is, of course, a tie-pin, and it's a very exciting tie-pin with the most amazing context. I mean, can you guess at its context? You must have thought about it.
Oh, yes. The gentleman who did sell me it said it was connected with Nelson, but he didn't elaborate too much, and I can't really remember what he did say.
No, well, the great thing is that you really did get it, and it's terribly, terribly exciting. I think that what's important to look at, first of all, is the way in which the word Nelson is laid out in black enamel. It's chanlevé enamel. That means that the gold lettering is raised up, and then it's flooded with black enamel. And it's in a way in which mourning rings were phrased in the early 19th century. And that's a clue to the fact that this is a very personal relic of Lord Nelson. He died on the 21st of October 1805 at the Battle of Trafalgar, and we know this only too well, really. And his big mistake was going on board wearing his medals, because he was a sure target for enemy fire. And of course he did receive enemy fire, and he was shot and fell, and nonetheless the battle was won. And I think it's perfectly possible that this may have been from a very close relative of his. So it's rather heart-stopping, isn't it?
It is really, yes. Considering it was one of the last things we thought about bringing.
Is that right? Well, I'm very glad that you did, really, because it's positively luminous. I mean, I think jewellery is a very funny thing. You can say that the most magnificent piece of diamond set jewellery is jewellery, and you can say that something very intimate and exciting and relatively worthless is jewellery too. This has no intrinsic value whatsoever. I mean, if it was melted down, it wouldn't be worth £15. Can you remember what you paid for it on that day?
I was trying desperately to remember, and I didn't know whether it was £8 or perhaps a little more than that.
Well, whatever it is, you overdid it, obviously.
It certainly wouldn't have been very much. No.
Well, heaven alone knows what it's really worth. I mean, there are great collectors of Nelson memorabilia. There are great collectors of Napoleon memorabilia. And I think that if this turned up at auction, it caused quite a stir. And I don't really know what to say to you. I can just tell you that this is a very small, almost radioactive piece of British history, one that's terribly, terribly exciting for me to find. And I'm going to venture £4,000 to £5,000 on it.
My goodness. Well, I'm just amazed.
I'm thrilled.
Amazed.
I'm completely thrilled. I love it. As soon as I saw this box, which was lurking in the bottom of your handbag, it said something very specific to me.
Yes, I realised it must have done. I couldn't believe you'd spotted it so quickly.
Well, the reason is that it's made of hollywood, and it's a type of wood much favoured by a very famous Russian jeweller. Have you any idea who made this charming little brooch?
Well, when we first found it among my mother's effects, my daughter was looking at it and she said, that's Russian, I'm sure it says Faberg. And I thought, I can't believe that, because I've no idea where it could have come from in our family.
No. And she was absolutely bang on, because in the lid satin, and satin it is a most luxurious object, this. I mean, the case is just as beautiful in a strange way as the object in it. This is pure silk at the top, and it says K. Faberg, St. Petersburg, Moscow and Odessa. And it's an absolute bullseye. It's in perfect condition. The only thing that's a problem with it is that the pin has broken off, and that can be restored quite easily. And as you can see very plainly, it's in the form of a tiny little heart surrounded by diamonds.
Yes.
The stone in the middle, have you thought about the stone at all?
Not really. It's one I don't recognise at all. It's a faint green, so.
It is a faint green. I think it's a zircon. It's got a very high refractive index. It's flashes rather wondrously, and I think it's a green zircon. But the point about this jewel really is not anything to do with intrinsic value, because I have to say, the material of it is fantastically modest. It's a green zircon, really very low value indeed. The diamonds surrounding it are very low value, and the gold is, of course, completely negligible. But it's heightened with a little flash of yellow enamel, isn't it? It's very artistic. And if you look under the yellow enamel, you'll see that you're seeing through the translucent enamel onto an engraved ground. There's a sort of flecked ground there.
Oh, I see. I hadn't really studied it that closely.
Not even when your daughter read Faberg. You had a closer look then.
I don't think I really believed it.
No, you didn't believe it. Well, we've got to now, I'm afraid, because it jolly well is. I mean, it's really an extraordinarily wonderful find, really. See that funny little hallmark there? It stands quite simply for Carl Faberg. And then 56, which is the gold standard. Running down the back of it is a series of numbers, which actually you could live with it for a whole lifetime and never see. This is engraved with a little steel point, and it gives a sequence of numbers which refer to stock books. I've actually had the time to look at the London stock books and check whether this jewel is in there. Maddeningly, it isn't. If it had been in there, we would have known exactly how much was paid for it, when it was bought, and by whom it was bought. I think it's highly likely to have been sold in London. I can date it between 1903 and 1915 from the lid satin. It says Odessa here. That branch didn't open until 1903. It's rather like an archaeological site. There's lots of sort of pulls on it, tiny, tiny brooch, and you think, well, what's all the fuss about? This is, of course, a heart on a bar, and it probably meant love on some level or another. It's a most lovely, lovely find. I find it very touching, actually. This is a souvenir of Russia that's long gone by. When it was bought, it wouldn't have been a cheap object in any way. Having said that it's worth next to nothing intrinsically, Fabergé was not a shop where you expected to buy things inexpensively. It was a shop for an Edwardian elite, really, with enormous spending power. I mean, luminous amounts of money, which we can really have no contemplation of either. And this was a little toy just taken off a shelf for a very specific meaning. It would have cost perhaps something like £30 or £40. Today, I think it might be worth £8,000.
And a weak at the knees, good gracious.